And perfect. So I'll share your title and name, and then after that is when your contest time will start. Then Ghazi, things we keep and things we leave behind. Things we keep and things we leave behind. Lynn Ghazi.
Thank you, Madam Contest Chair. Fellow Toastmasters, the other day, someone said to me, do you remember the early pandemic when everybody was baking and dancing and having their best life? Well, fellow Toastmasters, do you remember that? Do I hear a hell no? How many people of us were having our best life during the early pandemic or any time during the pandemic? No. But there was a tiny piece of truth buried in that larger falsehood, and that is when we react to something that we've gone through that sucks, maybe it's being bullied, maybe it's having cancer, we find ways to adapt. And as we get to the end of that, we need to decide which of those adaptions we keep and which ones we leave behind. The ones we keep, the ones we leave behind, you could compare to the grit that gets caught in an oyster shell. The ones we keep, perhaps, are the pearl. And so, as we come, well, we may not be ready to come to the end of the pandemic yet. Delta Cron, what's that flower you have on? But we are at the third area contest that's on Zoom, and we can hope that next year in person, and as we look forward to the end of the pandemic, it's time for me to reflect on what things I will keep and what I will leave behind. I do look forward to the day when I can forget where my pulse oximeter is and not have to worry. Fun thing about pulse oximeters, if you put them on just a little bit wrong, rather than telling you that you have 98 pulse oxygen, they start screaming. This one is okay. It says I have 97, so that's good. Start screaming that you're at 75% on oxygen, and because you had it wrongly positioned on your finger. One of the things that I am going to leave behind is this nice handmade mask that I sewed at the beginning of the pandemic when we couldn't get good masks. But I am going to keep the bit of elastic that has proved invaluable in distracting Zoom bombing cats. I am going to keep my, you may not be able to see it quite so well in the light, perhaps you can get a glimpse. I'm planning to keep my pandemic blue hair, even when I reach the point that I no longer have to go out every day in the matching pandemic blue N95 mask. Sadly, I shall need to leave behind the pandemic brownies for breakfast, because if I don't, my doctor will not thank me when she sees my weight and my fasting blood sugar. But I hope to keep a little tahini and some Splenda to be good to my diabetic husband, and I hope to keep the pandemic halva recipe. I actually did do a little dancing during the pandemic. I can't say I took up and learned a new dance step, but I did take up the habit during the year that I was work from home of taking work breaks and dancing and doing a little bit of that. I'm never gonna dance again. Guilty feet ain't got no rhythm. And I think I want to keep those dance breaks when I can, although people will look at me oddly if I do that during the days that I'm in the office. But I'm hybrid, so home days I could still do that. I am also, I may leave behind living my whole life on Zoom, but Zoom gave me the opportunity to do some things at a distance that were valuable. My choir, when we needed to be on Zoom, we had some lessons from a composer in South Africa. And so I learned to sing a bit of a Xhosa song. Nkosi somana siyabuza senzeni nakweli lizwe. And it takes a lot of effort to learn a song in a language that you don't really know. So I'm hoping with practice that I can hang on to that song. Most of all, I want to leave behind the bitter arguments that have come up. And I want to keep the friendships and family relationships that have seen me through. What about you? What do you want to leave behind, and what do you want to keep? What is your grit, and what for you is the pearl? Back to you, Madam Contest Chair.